Alright, today I'm going to demonstrate how to use the Sushi Robot FTN-1000. This one is a second-hand machine that's come to me to get up and going. I'll do a separate video on the strip down and cleaning of it. This is the hopper where the rice goes. This is the forming plate. Essentially what will happen is the rice will go in the top and it'll get formed into a sheet. So the idea is you put your seaweed on here and it'll form it, and then a second press of the little pedal here will make this drop down and form the sushi roll. Set of controls here. There are a few adjustments for thickness that are covered in the manual. That changes the thickness of the rice sheet and the size of it. We have some buttons here. We have start, home, feed, run and form, and a speed control. This covers the size for small, medium and large maki. I've left it on the large size at the moment. The machine to power up has a power switch down the bottom here on the left hand side. I shall turn that on right now. Now the machine will try and feed rice, so it's going to make a noise shortly. That's not a problem. It just means that it doesn't have any rice in the hopper. There's a little optical sensor on the left here, and if I were to break that, indicating that there's rice in there, then it's ready to go. So for the purpose of the exercise, I shall pull my finger out. It'll try and feed some rice, and I do have some rice here, so what we'll do is we'll pop that in there. Now it's got some rice in there. Just break that up a little bit so it feeds in a little bit better. There we go. Now, not convinced that this is going to be the best rice for it. But what we do now with the rice in the hopper is we press the button here. What that's going to do is send the carriage back, and it's going to try and feed some rice. We're probably going to have to do that a few times just to get the rice fed through. That's normal. And that is quite normal. This isn't proper sushi rice that I've used, so it could become a bit of a mess. And what we do just to get it going is just grab the rice that's on here and just chuck it back in the hopper. And the other issue, what I'm probably seeing here, is that the rice that I've used, I didn't have any proper sushi rice, and this is a brown rice that I've had at home for the test. It's probably not sticking enough. But you can see how the machine works. Press the button, the rice sheet's formed, or should be formed. Of course it's not going to work for me. Just a word of warning with this machine too, there's a couple of things that present a bit of a danger. There's a sensor here to make sure that it won't do anything when there's hands in this area, and there's a sensor in there as well for the optical sensor, but what there's not a sensor for is in the hopper, so we don't want hands in there. Yeah, that's doing its level best with a really poor rice. And the other thing that I haven't done, that's just occurred to me, is I haven't sprayed oil in the machine. So that's a bit of an issue today. Normally what you'd do is you'd spray a fine vegetable oil through there to stop it sticking. So what I think is happening today is that the rice is sticking. This gives you an idea as to the operation of the machine and how it would form. What we might do is we might pull it apart now, and we'll show you how to clean her up and pull it apart. But this indicates that the machine is functioning. The horn will go off if it's out of rice. So as you're operating, if there's not sufficient rice in the hopper down the bottom, it'll make a noise and let you know that. Now the adjustments here are for the thickness of the sheet, so what we might even try and do is lift that up a little bit and give it another shot and see what happens. Yeah, there we go. That gives you an idea as to how the sheet's going to be formed. So the idea would be before we hit that button like that, we put the nori sheet down. Now the problem today is that that's just sticking to the insides because I've failed to put down the oil. But the nori sheet would go down on here. The pedal, this one's really good because it's got the foot pedal, so it's keeping hands off the machine. You can operate it solely with just touching the food, which is fantastic in this case. I quite like that feature of this machine. So what I'll demonstrate now is I'm just trying to raise that platen a bit so we get this horrid brown jasmine rice that I've used as an example through. So what I'll do is I'll put the nori sheet on there, I'd hit the pedal, I'd be getting my bits and pieces ready. Now that theoretically is a nori sheet with the rice on it. I'd place my ingredients in the middle here, and tuna, salmon, avocado, whatever it is, pop it on there, hit the pedal again, that will compress it and roll it into a roll. Beautiful. And then you take that off, place another piece of nori on the platen and hit the button once again and get your next sheet. Beautiful. And now we're probably going to get a bit of a noise shortly to say that we're out of rice. There we go. Oh no, she's picked up a bit of rice down there. So, alright, so I'm going to pause the video and we're going to go over how we clean it out and pull it apart and put it back together. Just going to demonstrate the movement in the actual hopper, so you can see fingers can get trapped in there pretty easily. Yeah. I would suggest using a spatula or something like that to push this rice down that does get stuck. Might be a good idea. I wouldn't be doing what I just did and putting my fingers in there. Probably not a great idea. And that's having a bit of a whinge at the moment just because it's not seeing the rice down in this little area. You can see there's that little thing flashing is an optical sensor on the left hand side, and it looks through to see if there's any rice in there. What I recommend when we're going to clean the machine now, what I recommend is to turn it off, and that is down here, bottom left of the machine. There's a switch there, so we'll turn him off like so. Now I've created a bit of a mess for myself here. So I recommend using gloves or wet hands to clean up a load of sushi rice. It does make it a lot easier to get yourself cleaned up later on. Now the hopper is held on by two clips. One of them is here, one on the other side, so they're just a standard sort of clip. Lift them off, and then this hopper part, the top part, comes off. Just pop that over there for the time being. Now this is probably where I had the most trouble having this machine as a second-hand machine. I'm just going to get a bowl there for the rice. And now I have rice all over my feet. I'll have to keep that in mind when I go for a walk on the carpet. Just going to pop some gloves on now. Getting this assembly right was quite a trial. I found the instructions from the Korean manufacturer were not very detailed in how to put it all together. So this roller here is one that has a straight blade on it, and I'll show you why that's important shortly. We remove that roller, so the straight blade roller is at the top. This part here is going to be containing the most rice, so that's probably going to make the most mess for me. What I might do is just, the machine's off, so I'm just going to reach in and remove as much of this rice as I can, like so. Just save it spilling out all over the machine. We'll pop that in there. Now, this cover is the second part of the hopper, which goes in like that. If you can see the shape of that, it goes in on top like that. I'll put that out of the way. Now what we have is the second roller, and this is what I'll show you, which is really, really important when it comes to putting it back together. This roller is different in that it has quite a bit of rice on it, yes. I'll just get rid of that rice so we can show you. The fins on here, or the blades, have a little T-piece on them. So really important to note that that is the bottom roller. Very important. The cog sizes are different. And the other thing with the two of these guys is these little nylon pieces here are different sizes. So what you'll find is if you do get it wrong, it won't fit into the framework here. Now this is probably the bit that I had the most trouble with. This part here, I didn't get it in the right spot for some reason. Whether that's just me, I'm not too sure. But lift that out and try and get this rice out. That's the way it goes in. It's got some little barbs. I'll just tip that, get that rice out of it to show you a little bit better. There we go, get that rice out. I'll just demonstrate again how that goes in. That's the part. These little barbs go facing towards the rear. So I'll pop that down and try and get some of this out as well, because that's going to make it one heck of a mess. No, too late, it already has made one heck of a mess. Anyway, there's quite a bit of tidying up to do on this machine. The design is such that the rice gets into little nooks and crevices, so best to give it a good clean down. Probably a big risk with sushi machines. In my experience, the food safety risk comes from rice. So leaving old rice in there for a long period of time is probably your biggest risk. People think that the fish and all that sort of thing is the risk. Now this guy here sits in there and locks in at the back. There are a couple of tabs there, and there are some tabs on here which you can see. That clicks in the back there, like so, and between this other piece. So I'll pull that one out. And one more piece of the puzzle here is this piece here. I'll pull it out in the way that it goes in, so you can see the long thin part goes in back past the main roller. What I'll do is I'll grab that camera so as to demonstrate it, or show it to you in situ. Videography skills are still being worked on. So this piece here, there are the locking tabs for that other piece. I'll just demonstrate that while I have the camera in my hand. So this piece here, with its little tabs there, they locate in there, and it goes on there like that. I've actually got that part forward, but that's how that gets located. Alrighty, so I'll pull him out. This piece here, there we go. So this piece here has a little window. That's for the sensor that checks for the rice. He goes in, locates at either side of that big roller, and it sits in there like so. So you should be able to see that part of that piece just in there. Either side of the roller. I'll show you on the other side as well. There we go. So that centers and locates itself quite easily on there. So now what we have is quite a bit of rice, which I'll endeavour to clean up. This bar comes off. This is the blade. In this case, it should have a screw in there. This one's missing that for some reason, so I have to get another one. But that comes off with a little bit of force. It's actually not. This is why I didn't realise that the screw is missing, because it's on there quite hard. But what we want to do is get that off so that we can clean up the residual rice. Put it back on there. So what we'll do is we'll have a crack at that now. Probably a bit easier with two hands. Get those out of the way. Right, she's on there. So that's going to take a fair bit of force to get off. Might have to do that with a bit of swearing, so I might have to pause the video. Alright, so what I have found, that this is quite tight on, so it probably doesn't need a screw, but what I've done, I've just got a screwdriver to just lever that off a little bit, and she comes off. That's on pretty tight, so it is a nice tight fit. So we have a tapered shape there, and here we have the reverse taper and a hole there for that to go on. So that's the cutting blade. That needs a fair bit of tidying up and cleaning in the cleaning process. Just that's a food contact point, so it's worth giving that a good clean. So this is what we're left with. It's a matter of getting all the rice out of here and giving it all a good clean up. Continue to do. And I guess the next part is the reassembly, which I'll go and clean the rest of this machine up and show you how to reassemble him. One other point that I'll make is this whole assembly does come off with these little finger screws here. Oh man, there's rice everywhere. That undoes, and then this whole mechanism here which is the roller mechanism, that all comes loose and allows you to give it all a good clean up. So obviously this is a very delicate part with the all the moving parts there and the roller. Make sure that any staff doing this treat this with a lot of respect. It doesn't want to, if we drop it, the machine's useless. And I would not submerge this. I would use, I would clean it with just a light sanitizing dish soap, and yeah, I definitely wouldn't submerge the whole thing. I'm not 100% sure what the whole thing's made of, but I definitely wouldn't submerge it. So that one we'll take away and clean, and then all this is just a matter of tidying up. So I'll pause the video here while I go and get rid of some of this rice, and we'll resume shortly. Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to put it back together now. We have a couple of pieces to put back together. There's a cover plate that comes off here that allows you to clean it a lot easier, and there's also inside here we have an actuating part here that pushes the plate up, that goes in like so, it locates on a pin there, and a little wheel here that just gets screwed down and on. Yeah. So, with it all cleaned up, the first thing we're going to do is put the forming platen back on. That goes on, probably the best way to work it out is with that handle facing towards the operator. And we'll just place it in here gently. This will locate just here. We have a lug, and on the other side with a thread in it. So what we want to do is use this screw here to locate it and push it down into place. And similarly on the other side, same deal. Just spin that one down there and into place. So that's in place there. Now, you remember before I mentioned about the different rollers, but before we do that, I'm going to pop this piece here into place, remembering that goes in with these legs facing towards the operator, and that'll slide in and position itself just in here next to the big plate, and it also locates on the frame that holds the band in there. Next part is this guy here. And if you remember me saying, this one here has those lugs here and here, and that will locate, I'll give it a slightly different angle now, and demonstrate where that goes. So that will locate in there. Just these two little legs here, we're just going to go under that, like so. We'll split that guy so it goes between the legs on that one, so it fits in between the first part that I put in. Now, you remember I mentioned before about the two different types of rollers. We have one with the tabs and we have one without. The one with the tabs is the first one that we put in, and that's going to go in here. You get a fair idea that you've got it the right way around, because that's going to locate on the gear. Now something's a bit off here, I reckon, because that's not in place properly on the gear, is it? No, yes it is. It is. So that's sitting nice and flush there. So all we're going to do is put the bottom hopper on, the bottom of the hopper, and that's going to go on right there. will locate in there, and it'll hold this roller right in place, and it'll form a seal. So, oh, have I got that round the wrong way? No, I haven't. These tabs here, I forgot to mention, on the back of this one we have these two tabs, and that'll slide down in there. And what I am finding, I've done something wrong here. Just going to backtrack. That's not quite right. That's better now. Place that one in there. So, it's not the most precise way of seating. I'm not too sure why that is, but anyway, just it won't go back together properly if it's not right, so you'll work that out. Now this has little tabs inside here and here, and they locate on the inside of the bottom part of the hopper. So, like so. Yeah, that's going to form reasonably tight join along there. Number 2 roller is the one without the prongs. He just sits on top there. I can tell that I've done it right because now all of those gears are properly meshed. So I'm happy with that. Now, the top of the hopper will locate on top of this assembly. Keep an eye on this. That's where the little latches latch on, so it gives you an idea of which way around it goes. So we'll latch that on there, and on there, maybe, there we go, and that's latched on, and we'll go anyway. Beautiful. Now, lastly, I've given this a good clean as well, and we'll locate that on the shaft, and we'll give that a really good pressing on, and that'll slide on, and that's in place. So we're ready to go. One thing I will mention as a safety precaution, that's live electricals in this side here, and what I did when I was mucking around, that accidentally dropped down and I touched some live wires in there. So very important, it's probably one of the issues I do have with this machine, is that that is quite possible. An electrocution hazard is there, so we need to be very careful of that. Again, cleaning, it's a tricky one to clean. There are all sorts of nooks and crannies. The staff are going to have to make sure that they give it a really thorough clean, and I'd use a spray sanitizer on it as well. That's about all. The manual is available, and the adjustments, that's the thickness, that adjusts the height, in other words how much rice comes out. The small, medium and large marquee size here will depend how far in this goes, and the speed control will adjust depending on, that will adjust the speed that it goes. So if you're having issues with the formation of the rice blanket, then probably slowing it down a little bit might help as well. From there, I haven't had any more experience with this machine. Suffice to say that anything that I haven't covered should be covered in the manual. Good luck with your sushi endeavours.